They make shit. Unbelievable, unremarkable shit. Now, I'm not some grungy wannabe filmmaker that's searching for existentialism through a haze of bong smoke or something. No, it's easy to pick apart bad acting, short-sighted directing, and the purely moronic stringing together of words that many of the studios term as prose. No, I'm talking about the lack of realism. Realism. Not a pervasive element in today's modern American cinematic vision. Take Dog Day Afternoon, for example. Arguably Pacino's best work, short of Scarface and Godfather Part 1, of course. Masterpiece of directing, easily Lumet's best. The cinematography, the acting, the screenplay, all top-notch, but they didn't push the envelope. Now, what if in Dog Day, Sonny wanted to get away with it, really wanted to get away with it? What if, now this is the tricky part, what if he started killing hostages right away? No mercy, no quarter. Meet our demands are the pretty blonde and the bell-bottoms gets it in the back of the head. Bam, splat. What, still no bus? Come on. How many innocent victims splattered across a window would it take to have the city reverse its policy on hostage situations? And this is 1976. There's no CNN. There's no CNBC. There's no internet. Now, fast forward to today, present time, same situation. How quickly would the modern media make a frenzy over this? In a matter of hours, it would be the biggest story from Boston to Budapest. 10 hostages die. 20, 30. Relentless. Bam, bim. One after another. All caught in high def, computer enhanced, color corrected. You can practically taste the brain matter. All for what? A bus? A plane? A couple of $1 million that's federally insured? I don't think so, but just a thought. I mean, it's not within the realm of conventional cinema, but what if?
Well, there's a problem with that movie.
Really?
It wouldn't work.
How come?
Audiences love happy endings.
Pacino escapes with the money. Boyfriend gets a sex change. Live happily ever after. No?
No.
Ah, homophobia.
Bad guy can't win. It's a morality tale. One way or the other, he's got to go down.
Well, life is stranger than fiction sometimes.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, ladies and gentlemen, on this pale blue dot that we all live on. My name is Adam-Antium, you're the audience, and you're listening to AAUTZM Podcasts. I'd like to thank you all for clicking in, as it were, and listening. The intro clip that you just heard was it was one of the opening scene from the film Swordfish, starring John Travolta and Hugh Jackman. And I thought it would be, an interesting sort of introduction to the show, because, as you can tell from the title, today I'm talking about morality tales in movies and TV. And even though I have come up with some, I've got some extensive lists that notes that I'm going to be going through. But yeah, I'm going to be going through some of those. But I just thought that would be an interesting way to start the show off. But just the usual announcement for those of you listening to this on YouTube. My podcast also exists on TalkShoe.com. Down below in the video description, you'll find a link to the Call series, as it's called, and there you can download and listen to the full podcast for free in MP3 format. So for those of you who don't want to watch through 30-minute videos that I upload on YouTube, you can do that there. And the usual plug is for the Zeitgeist Movement Defined. Essentially what this is if you really want to know exactly what the Zeitgeist Movement advocates, what the train of thought is, all of that great stuff, if you want to know what it is, this is the book that you got to read. It's basically just an essay form, just a a book that goes through extensively and basically describes every single facet of the train of thought that, the moniker of the Zeitgeist movement, as it were. So that's the train of thought that we advocate. So if you want to find that, go to www.thezeitgeistmovement.com/orientation, and there you can find ways to get hold of it. If you want a physical copy of the book, then you can get it from, I think there's links there for Amazon and Lulu.com. I don't know, I haven't checked the site in a while. There might be more, there might be less, I don't know. But I know that there's also, if you want to just have a PDF of it, that you can download onto your tablet devices or whatever, you can download a PDF of it for free. I myself, I've got my own physical copy that I bought at a Z-Day event in London, just cost me £5, and it's a pretty damn good book. But yeah, there's that. Personal announcement, yes, chapter 3 Threshold still isn't done. I'm really sorry about this. I've been procrastinating a lot on that, and because I've been, supercharged with other projects that I haven't even started yet, and already I'm writing scripts for. But that will be served up in the future. But yeah, I'm seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, as it were, with Threshold, and I'll have that out ASAP. Another Zeitgeist Movement announcement for those of you who know that next month is generally agreed to be like the simultaneous Zeitgeist Day events, where events are held all over the world in as many cities as possible, and hopefully more or less around the second week of March. This year, the main event where Peter Joseph will be speaking, and a lot of the main speakers, that will be held in Berlin in Germany on Saturday the 14th of March at the Forum Factory, wherever that is. I'm not familiar with Germany. But one thing that you got to think is there a Z-Day event near you? I myself, I started the Maidstone chapter, and I've hosted a couple of events down there. If you're living in the southeast, then why not get in touch with me? See if we can get together, throw some ideas around. But yeah, the idea is to host as many events as possible in as many places as possible, so at least then we can start gaining some exposure from the mainstream. We can coalesce and not coalesce, that's not the word I was thinking of, cooperate, and collaborate, and just to bring some ideas forward. But for those of you who don't know what Z-Day is and have no idea what the hell I'm talking about here, Z-Day is basically our sort of a conference sort of thing where we host events, and we get have speakers, we even do short screenings, Q&A, basically all that fun intellectual stuff. But yeah, as I said, the main event is going to be in Berlin, Germany on Saturday 14th of March at the Forum Factory. But if you want to find out more about that, and if there is one near you, then go to www.zdayglobal.org, and there's a map that you can, just like a Google Maps sort of thing, that you can zoom in on, and basically any events that are basically verified, and because basically if you can submit your own events there as well, and the people that submit their events, it basically goes through that process, and then the details are put up on the map once they're sort of official events. But yeah, that's basically the idea for that. And if you have a look there, if there's no event near you, think about hosting one yourself. Tell you what, you could host one in your living room if you have a living room big enough. But even if it's just to seat maybe, I don't know, 10 people. I'm sure there are some people who live in the little nooks and crannies of the UK even, that have like a big enough living room to seat 10 people, and there could be one person giving a talk or just watching a talk, right? That's one thing you could possibly do for a Z-Day event. If you can't give a talk, then sit down and watch something. But then again, you don't have to wait for Z-Day to do that. But anyway, go to www.zdayglobal.org, have a look on the map, see if there's like videos of prior events there as well. So you can look up all that information there. But yeah, if there isn't one near you, why not create one? One podcast announcement. This is the last of the initial announcements. The next episode in March, I'm going to be having a chat with, hopefully having a chat with a nice gentleman, whose name I won't give out just yet, because the exact time of the interview that we're going to be doing over Skype isn't completely verified. I think it's just a day that we've decided, because I've been chatting to one of his assistants. But yeah, that's going to be hopefully happening next podcast. Who it is, well, I can't say just yet. So keep your ear to the ground for that. But anyway, it is, however, my unfortunate task to inform you that Busy Bees is now no longer our sponsor, since the service itself actually got piggybacked by another money-making endeavour. Essentially what happened is that one of the drones was captured and reprogrammed to ignore certain protocols and do other things when not executing commands from the distribution hub. These people then began using the drone to fly up to the bedroom windows of young women and film them sleeping. Said footage was being uploaded to a pay-per-view website and streamed to paying customers. You know, it didn't really come as a surprise to me that there's actually a market in this sort of thing. Since, for over a decade now on Channel 4, we've been able to watch people sleeping. It's called Big Brother. But that being said, the company themselves were held liable, since it was their equipment that was being used, and they were sent down along with the guys who set up the pay-per-view site. So no more drone couriers for now. So this podcast is brought to you by Crystal Clear Conscience, a revolutionary new technology which could drastically affect human decision making. Essentially, it's a pair of holographic projectors built into the shoulders of a garment of your choosing, and each unit projects an interactive hologram, right? This awesome stuff. It's one for your good conscience, right? And another for your bad conscience. Now, people don't get these things straight away, you don't understand. There needs to be a vetting procedure. Now, obviously, for legal reasons and all this sort of stuff, this only entails 1 week of recorded interfacing, just so we know that your bad conscience doesn't overpower your good, and thus they could be held liable for that. I personally think that, this is a good idea, but just think of the possibilities of where we could have right there with you, wherever you go, access to two opposing voices of reason. It's an exciting new thing. I mean, I think some of them were talking about doing Google updates for them, and but yeah, it's an exciting new thing. So you should make sure to get hold of yours. So go to www.crystalclearconscience.com/offer and enter the code name Adam123, and you'll be given the email address of a temp who can get you through the vetting process quicker. But that's that. So this podcast is brought to you by my entrusted triad of sponsorship. providing the points of presentation that keeps this podcast show afloat and coming to you free every single month without fail. My triad consists of Russell Brand, Green Party MP Caroline Lucas, and Sir Patrick Stewart. They have all agreed to co-fund this podcast until they can each spare at least 10 minutes on the show with me to talk about science and sustainability when applied to society. That being the ultimate fulfillment of their role, and they're free to go. Their role being filled by a new contributor. So, cheers guys. So, ladies and gents, be sure to message, tweet, email, smoke signal, whatever you got to do to thank these individuals for sponsoring this show. The more we thank them, the more likely they will be to actually come on to talk to us. But anyway, enough of the jabber. We're going right on to the actual topic of the podcast in hand, which is morality tales in movies and TV. Now, I will, of course, be using the term morality tale in as loose a sense as necessary. I mean, I know there's, the idea of morality tales in fiction, that there's a specific meaning for that term. But since the subject matter this podcast will explore are all extremely varied and they thus bleed into other philosophical ideas, principles, logical precepts, but there's an overall moral or ethical question or problem that the characters are dealing with or exist within, and I've chosen as many of these as I could that are relevant to the problems we face in the real world, and ideas of positive social change. And as you will tell from the films I've already reviewed on this podcast, the medium of movies is actually an interesting means of communicating ideas, especially ethical questions. In this respect, a movie that uses a morality tale in part or as a whole functions as what's known as a Gedanken experiment, or otherwise known as a thought experiment, where the necessary variables are distilled in a story to show the viewer a clear view of what the situation is and what the options are. However, arriving at a decision based upon these variables is another story. That's a question of methodology. But just as an interesting addition to the podcast, I'm going to read from a Cracked.com article. It was written by Joe Olivetto, and for those of you who are watching on YouTube, I'll include a link to the article in the video description. The article itself, if you want to look for it, is called The 5 Most Insanely Misunderstood Morals of Famous Stories. So, here we go. The Great Gatsby criticises decadence, inspires parties. The Great Gatsby is that 1920s American novel with hidden pictures of naked women on the cover. It's also deeply critical of the self-indulgent lifestyle of rich people with more money than scruples, like that Gatsby dude in the title. True, the story does feature quite a few parties, but Gatsby just throws them to attract a ditzy flapper girl, a relationship that doesn't end well. Spoilers, everyone dies. As a result, Gatsby's parties turn out to be empty and meaningless affairs, sometimes literally empty, like that time he turns on all the lights as though he's throwing a party but no one's there. Due to its critical tone and tragic ending, the story has been called a cautionary tale of the decadent downside of the American dream. You can debate whether the big-budget Leo DiCaprio movie adaptation grasped the message of the book, but we know one group of people who absolutely didn't. The fans who missed the point. Yeah, it turns out that when your story has rich people dressed fabulously in opulent surroundings drinking classy liquor, fans aren't likely to say, "Look at the selfishness, hypocrisy and moral vacuum," as they are to say, "That party is awesome, let's do that." For instance, rich people love throwing non-ironic Gatsby parties, unaware that invoking the name of the novel basically amounts to admitting that the world would be a much better place without you. A few years ago, Prince Harry attended a Gatsby-themed 21st birthday party that cost $25,000 to throw. The following year, Paul McCartney threw his own expensive Gatsby birthday gala, although they're Brits, so in that case we could at least understand why they'd want to dance on the courts of the American dream. Hey! Sorry, that was my interjection. Sorry, carrying on. Meanwhile, if you dare venture into Pinterest, you'll find page after page of users collecting material for Gatsby-themed weddings. As Zachary Seward of the Atlantic puts it, it's like throwing a Lolita-themed children's birthday party. The Gatsby craze revved up even further before the release of the film. In addition, newspapers had to advise their readers about which of the many Gatsby parties they should favour, and CNN, while actually conceding that the book criticised this sort of thing, offered up a guide on hosting your own Gatsby bash for babies. Atlas Shrugged fans love government bailouts, stupid laws. Most novels are easy to misinterpret one way or another, but you can't do that with Atlas Shrugged, as hard as you try. In addition to its continual, explicit, preachy monologues, it devotes 60 pages to an uninterrupted 3-hour speech that lays out every bit of author Ayn Rand's philosophy, called objectivism. This urges selfishness over altruism, volition over coercion, rationality over faith, and, above all, verbosity over conciseness. The fans who missed the point. If we had to list everyone who said they liked Atlas Shrugged, but then did the opposite of what the book says, we'd be here all day. But we can certainly list the most ridiculous ones. Plenty of CEOs love Atlas Shrugged. For instance, which isn't too surprising since most of the book's heroes are CEOs, yet these fans seem to forget that the book's villains are also CEOs. So when AIG's stock shot up after the government bailed them out with $85 billion and CEO Bob Benmosh thought he deserved a pat on the back, he wrote, quote, "But I learned in Atlas Shrugged, find your thank yous from within." End quote. The villains in Atlas Shrugged were CEOs who ruined the economy but profited from government bailouts. That sounds familiar. Anyway, meanwhile... Sorry, that was my interjection again, sorry. Meanwhile, the book also criticises government torture and targeted killing, denounces the concept of religion, and roundly ridicules anyone who trusts feelings over scientific fact. So, of course, the book is hugely popular with the folks at Fox News. Glenn Beck recommends it, and Sean Hannity likes it so much that he lobbied his way into a cameo in the book's low-budget, low-grossing film adaptation. Wow, I've got to see that. The same Sean Hannity that supports waterboarding, and the same Glenn Beck that thinks there's an atheist conspiracy. But the award for absolute worst misunderstanding of Atlas Shrugged has to go to Idaho State Senator John Goad. Goad said the book taught him personal responsibility and convinced his son to be a Republican. So when he found himself angry with some of the changes in his state graduation requirements, he introduced, largely symbolic, legislation requiring all students to read Atlas Shrugged before they graduate. Really? Wow. That's right. Worried that your students are growing up believing the government has the right to coerce them into doing things? Why better have the government coerce them into reading a book about government coercion? That'll do the trick. Anyway, moving on in the article. Finding Nemo inspires kids to separate more fish from their families. Finding Nemo tells of a fish caught and put in a tank until his father, Marlin, finds him and they can escape back to the sea. Even a 5-year-old can tell that this movie doesn't exactly paint keeping fish as mascots in a good light. Fishing is portrayed as kidnapping, a fish tank is portrayed as a prison, and the closest thing to a villain the movie has is an ugly little girl who keeps accidentally killing her pet fish by shaking them in their baggies. The fans who missed the point. So naturally, thousands of kids who love the movie responded with, "Let's kidnap a cute little fish and keep it in a cruel prison." And the parents who were forced to sit through the thing 10 times did exactly that. Demand for tropical fish exploded right after the film's release, especially for clownfish and blue tang, the main character's species. And just like the evil little girl in the movie, many new pet buyers had no idea how to take care of their pets and ended up killing them. You see, saltwater tropical fish aren't fish that you can just throw in a goldfish bowl. They need a 30-gallon aquarium with carefully controlled salinity levels or they'll die. But most kids stop listening to the instructions at the word salt water. The rise in demand took fish importers by surprise. They first walked out of Finding Nemo worried because the moral was clearly fish should not be separated from their friends in the ocean. But audiences bought so many fish that they threatened whole sections of the reef the film celebrated. Populations of clownfish dropped by 75% in some areas. Whoa. This isn't the first time something like this has happened. These fads usually crop up when a movie portrays what delightful pets the animals make, like the Dalmatians in 101 Dalmatians, which are actually aggressive, untrained beasts that get abandoned or put down. Really? Dalmatians are naturally aggressive? I would disagree with that part of the article. Or Harry Potter's owls. Most were dumped when it turned out they don't grant magic powers or British accents. I think that was a joke. But Finding Nemo is different because this time the whole premise of the movie was freeing the animal from being a pet. Then again, pet owners who took that premise to heart didn't respond much better. Some released their venomous fish into the ocean, ruining Florida's ecological balance. Others flushed fish down the toilet to free them. These fish died before even reaching the sewers. I'd imagine. Hopefully when Pixar makes the inevitable sequel, the message will be, kidnapping fish is awesome and you should murder them as much as possible. But anyway, that's all I'm going to read from that article, but yeah, you can find that on crack.com. But anyway, on to my reviews. When it comes to the kinds of morals Hollywood teaches us, besides the obvious good versus evil thing, is the idea that the status quo should be maintained, or at least regained if lost or threatened. You know, this is something that I will allude to a bit later on with one of the films that I'll review. But someone who spoke to this specifically was Owen Cook, otherwise known as Tyler. He founded a company called Real Social Dynamics. But the thing that he said is, quote, "Society is in many ways a lot like a Hollywood movie. There is a good guy, there is a bad guy, and there is an ending that reinforces social norms. There's an uplifting message, 'Go America,' at the end. It's saying the system works. The system is good. For a little while there, we were thinking that our existing beliefs could be wrong, and those beliefs were threatened. But no, at the end, we discover that there is a good reason to have those beliefs. And there's a simplicity there. And the thing is, people like that simplicity. They don't want to think. They don't want to look at the multi-dimensions of how the world works. They don't want to have to dig in deep. They don't want to be required to have to be aware all the time.